Millionaire Ethan Ward, twin daughters, Lily and Mia, were never the type to stop for strangers. But that night, outside a quiet diner in Seattle, everything changed. They found a waitress named Amber collapsing on the sidewalk, her uniform soaked in rain, her voice barely a whisper. Something she said froze the twins in place, something about their father, and a truth she wasn't supposed to know. Ethan arrived moments later, shocked to see his daughters holding the frightened girl. Amber looked at him with trembling eyes, as if she'd seen him before, and as if he was the reason her life was falling apart. Ethan Ward was known across Seattle as a successful millionaire CEO, a man who built his empire from scratch. People admired his discipline, his vision, and his ability to turn failing companies into thriving ones. But inside his mansion overlooking Lake Washington, Ethan lived with a quiet emptiness. Ever since his wife, Emily, passed away 5 years earlier, he had thrown himself into work. His twin daughters, Lily and Mia, were his whole world, yet even they felt the distance he carried like a shadow. That morning, the mansion was calm, sunlight pouring through high windows, classical music echoing through the halls. Lily and Mia sat at the breakfast table, replaying what had happened the night before. The moment they found Amber, the young waitress who had collapsed in the rain. The girl's words still haunted them. "Dad, she said your name," Mia whispered, her voice uneasy. Ethan paused with his coffee halfway up. "My name? Why would a waitress know anything about me?" Neither girl had an answer. Across the city, in a small hospital room, Amber lay on a narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. Faint memories of last night circled through her mind. Cold rain, pain in her chest. Then 2 kind girls rushing toward her. She felt embarrassed, lost, and strangely terrified. She knew the name Ethan Ward too well, a name her mother used to speak with both fear and regret. Amber had spent years working at diners, cleaning tables, and saving every dollar to take care of her sick mother. Life had never given her a break. She carried the weight of survival every day, yet she always helped others before herself. Her coworkers often wondered how a girl living in poverty could still smile with such genuine kindness. Back at the mansion, the twins begged Ethan to visit Amber. "Dad, she looked really scared and tired. We couldn't just leave her there." Ethan hesitated. His schedule was packed. Investors waited for him, meetings stacked on meetings. But something about the way his daughters looked at him, hope mixed with concern, softened him. "All right," he said finally. "Let's go." The drive to the hospital was filled with silence. Ethan kept wondering why that girl had whispered his name, why her expression had turned pale the moment she saw him. The thought followed him like a growing shadow. When they entered Amber's room, she sat up fast, her eyes widening in fear. She clutched the blanket as if it were a shield. Why are you here?" she stammered. "To check on you," Ethan said gently. "My daughters said you needed help." Amber's hands shook, and she looked down. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "Your family, they're connected to something I was never supposed to discover." Lily and Mia exchanged anxious glances. Ethan stepped closer. "What do you mean?" he asked quietly. Amber lifted her eyes, filled with guilt, fear, and a truth she wasn't ready to reveal. "If I tell you, everything in your life will change," she muttered. And before anyone could speak, she turned her face away, trembling, as if the secret she held was bigger than any of them imagined. Amber stayed tense, her fingers twisted in the blanket, her breathing uneven. Ethan tried to speak again, but Lily stepped forward first, her voice softer than anyone expected. "Amber, we're not here to scare you. We just want to understand." Amber blinked quickly, as if swallowing down years of fear. She finally whispered, "You don't know what you're asking." The nurse walked in for a brief moment, checking Amber's vitals, giving everyone a polite nod before stepping out. The door closed, and something about the sudden quiet shifted the air. Ethan sat in the chair beside the bed. "Look," he said, steady but gentle. "You said my name like it meant something terrifying. Why?" Amber stared at him for a long moment. Her lips trembled. "Because I grew up hearing about you, but not in the way you think." The words hit Ethan strangely. Hearing them from a girl he had met only once made the room feel heavier. "My mother," Amber began, voice fragile. "She used to talk about a man who changed her life, a man she trusted, a man she feared. She never told me everything, but she said his name in her sleep sometimes." She swallowed hard. "Your name," Mia whispered. "That's impossible. Dad barely talks to anyone outside work." Ethan nodded in agreement. "I don't know your mother, Amber. I'm sure of that." Amber let out a sad, broken laugh. "I used to hope that too." Before Ethan could respond, Amber tried to sit up. She winced in pain, leaning on her elbows until Lily rushed to help her. For someone who worked long hours and lived with little rest, Amber had a quiet strength, but today she looked fragile, almost transparent. "Let her rest," Ethan said, but Amber shook her head. "No, you should hear this." She pointed weakly toward the small bag the hospital staff had placed on the chair. "There's a photo inside. It's the only real thing my mother left me." Mia grabbed the bag and pulled out a folded photograph. She froze. "Dad, you need to see this." Ethan took the picture, and his breath hitched. It was a photo of Amber's mother, young, smiling, standing in front of the Pike Place Market. Beside her stood Ethan's late wife, Emily. For a second, it felt like the ground beneath Ethan had disappeared. He gripped the photo tighter. "Where did this come from?" Amber's eyes filled with tears. "My mom carried it everywhere. She said the woman next to her saved her life once. She said I should look for her if anything ever happened." Lily whispered, "But that's Mom." Amber nodded painfully. "I didn't know until I saw your daughters last night. They look just like her. And when I heard your last name, everything inside me broke." Ethan felt a familiar ache rise in his chest. Memories of Emily flooded back. The way she helped strangers without hesitation. The way she believed kindness could change anything. Had she saved Amber's mother once? Had she kept this secret from him? Before he could ask anything else, Amber suddenly gasped and reached for the bedside table. Her hand knocked over a stack of papers, a mix of medical bills, prescriptions, and a worn-out journal. A folded envelope slid out and landed at Ethan's feet. Amber's whisper shook the entire room. That's the part I've been too afraid to tell you." Ethan picked up the envelope slowly. His daughters watched with wide, frightened eyes. Amber squeezed her eyes shut. "If you open that, you'll know why my whole life is tied to yours." The envelope felt heavier than anything Ethan had ever held. And as he stared at Amber trembling on the bed, one truth settled across the room like a storm. Whatever was inside would change everything. "Didn't open the envelope. Not yet." Something inside warned him that once he did, there would be no going back. He set it gently on the bedside table, while Amber watched with anxious, frightened eyes. Before he could speak, the door swung open and Ethan's longtime business partner, Mark Sullivan, walked in. A tall man with sharp features and an even sharper suspicion of anyone who got close to Ethan's family. "Ethan," Mark said, eyeing Amber, the twins, and the pile of documents scattered across the floor. "What exactly is going on here?" Lily stepped forward protectively. "We brought Amber here. She needed help." Mark frowned. And why is she surrounded by your family like she's some long-lost relatives? His voice carried irritation, mixed with something colder. Amber flinched. Ethan gave Mark a warning look. Don't talk to her like that. Mark ignored him. Ethan, you're a millionaire CEO with a reputation to protect. You can't just pull random waitresses into your life. You have to think about the consequences. Amber's face fell, and Mia glared at Mark. She's not random. She knew Mom. Mark turned sharply. What? Ethan handed Mark the photo. Mark stiffened, his jaw tightening as he examined Emily standing beside Amber's mother. Coincidence, Mark muttered. People take photos with strangers all the time. Not like this, Ethan said. Emily never told me about her. Amber hugged her knees, her voice quiet but steady. My mom said the woman in the picture saved her life. She said she owed her everything. She told me to find her if something ever happened. Mark shook his head. Ethan, you can't buy into this. You're being emotional. She wants something from you. Amber's eyes filled instantly, but she didn't look away. I don't want money, she whispered. I want answers. Her voice was so raw that even Ethan felt it like a punch to the chest. Mark, enough, Ethan said firmly. But Mark wasn't finished. He pointed to the envelope. Whatever is in there, don't trip. She could have planted it. You have no idea who she really is. Amber recoiled as if struck. Why would I risk everything just to lie to you? Ethan watched the two of them. Mark, suspicious and cold. Amber, trembling yet brave. Something about the contrast stirred memories of Emily's compassion and the life she lived, believing in kindness over power. Amber's voice grew small. My mom didn't lie about anything. She was the only person who never abandoned me. Lily sat beside Amber on the bed, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. We believe you. Mark exhaled sharply. This is a mistake, Ethan. A big one. Ethan turned to Amber. Tell me the rest. Why did your mother want you to find Emily? Amber hesitated. Her fingers brushed the envelope with a fearful tenderness. Because, she whispered, my mother told me Emily was the only person who understood the truth about my father. The room fell silent. Ethan felt a chill climb his spine. Your father? What? Amber looked up, eyes filled with a painful honesty. She said my father was someone powerful, someone she feared, someone she never wanted to face again. Mark's expression twisted into something unreadable. Ethan stepped closer. Amber, do you know who your father is? Amber shook her head slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. No, but she said the answer was in that envelope. All eyes shifted to it, small, ordinary, and yet suddenly more dangerous than anything in the room. Amber whispered, voice shaking, if you open it, you'll understand why she ran, and why she wanted me to find Emily instead of him. The envelope sat still, but it felt like it was pulsing with truth, and Ethan finally realized this secret wasn't just tied to Amber's past. It might be tied to his own. Ethan finally reached for the envelope. His hands didn't shake often, but now they did. Lily and Mia held their breath. Amber sat still, hugging herself, as if preparing for her entire life to collapse or make sense in a single moment. Mark stepped forward. Ethan, stop. You don't owe this girl anything. Ethan ignored him and opened the envelope. Inside was a thin stack of papers and a letter written in Amber's mother's handwriting. Amber watched every movement, tears gathering in her eyes. Ethan unfolded the letter first. Amber whispered, "Please, just read it." Ethan read silently while the room waited. The letter revealed a story Amber had never fully understood. Her mother had once worked at a failing company in Seattle years ago. She'd uncovered illegal activity by the owner and was threatened into silence. Emily, Ethan's late wife, discovered what happened and helped Amber's mother escape before the situation grew dangerous. Emily hid her at a safe location until she could start over. Ethan's breath caught. Emily had been pregnant at the time, pregnant with Lily and Mia, and still risked everything. But the part that hit hardest was the final lines. Amber's mother wrote, "I don't know who Amber's father is. I was hurt and scared and taken advantage of by someone in power during that time." Emily said she'd help me find justice someday, but she died before she could. If anything happens to me, take this letter to Ethan Ward. He is the only person I trust to protect Amber. The room went silent. Amber sobbed softly, her whole body trembling. She never told me she didn't know who he was. She always made it sound like she was hiding him. Ethan looked at her with a softer expression than he'd worn in years. "Amber, your mother was brave, and Emily, she tried to save both of you." Mark suddenly stepped closer, agitation rising in his voice. "Ethan, you can't trust this. There's no proof this isn't a setup." Amber flinched. "Why would I lie about something that destroyed my whole life?" Mark's voice sharpened. "Because desperate people lie." The CEO panicked wasn't said, but the tension around Ethan's chest felt exactly like that. Two truths pulling him apart. Mark's warnings and Amber's raw, undeniable honesty. Before Ethan could choose a side, the medical papers slipped from his hand and scattered on the floor. One document caught his eye. A hospital file. Amber's mother had listed a potential suspect from the past. A name Ethan recognized. He looked up sharply at Mark, who had gone pale. Amber whispered, "You know who it is, don't you?" Ethan stepped toward Mark, anger rising in his eyes. Mark backed away, and the name on the paper waited, ready to expose the truth that would tear everything open. Ethan held the hospital file tightly, the name burning in his mind. Mark took another step back, his confidence cracking for the first time. "Ethan, you're misunderstanding," Mark said, voice unsteady. Amber stared between them, confused and frightened. "Why is he acting like this? What does that paper say?" Ethan's voice came out low, controlled, but filled with fury. "Your mother listed one man she feared, one man who threatened her when she tried to expose the truth at her old job." He lifted the file. "Mark Sullivan." Lily gasped. Mia covered her mouth. Amber froze. Mark shook his head quickly. "That company was a mess long before I got there. I wasn't responsible for anything she claimed. She needed someone to blame." "But she named you," Ethan said sharply. "And Emily protected her from someone. From you." Mark's face twisted. Emily didn't understand the situation. She thought she was helping, but she made everything worse. Amber's voice trembled. "You're saying she lied? My mother never lied." Mark snapped. "She was desperate. People like her cling to anyone with money." Ethan stepped forward, fury rising like a wave. "Don't talk about her like that. Emily risked her life for that woman, and you repaid it by destroying her job and driving her into hiding." Mark's jaw clenched. "You don't know everything." "I know enough," Ethan said. "And I know Emily was right to protect Amber's mother from you." Amber wiped her tears, trying to steady her breathing. "If you hurt her, you hurt me too." Mark looked at her, and something flickered in his eyes. Guilt or anger, no one could tell. "I did what I had to do. The company needed control." Ethan pointed toward the door. "Get out of this room, now, and don't come near my family again." Mark hesitated, then stormed out, the door rattling as he left. Silence filled the room. Amber collapsed into the pillows, overwhelmed. Lily and Mia rush. Ethan stood still for a long moment, absorbing everything. Emily's courage, Amber's suffering, Mark's betrayal. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something shift inside him. Not the weight of grief, but the spark of purpose. Emily's purpose. He knelt beside Amber. You're not alone anymore. Whatever your mother feared, whatever she endured, it ends now. Amber looked at him with tear-filled eyes. But what if Mark isn't finished? Ethan glanced at the doorway Mark had stormed through, a storm brewing behind his calm expression. He just made his biggest mistake, Ethan said quietly, and I'm going to make this right. But before anyone could speak again, Ethan's phone buzzed on the table. A single text message appeared. From Mark. If you think this is over, you're wrong. That girl will ruin everything you built. Ethan stared at the message, his jaw tightening. The fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. The message from Mark stayed on Ethan's phone like a warning, but he didn't hesitate. That same night, he contacted investigators who had once worked with Emily, people he trusted more than anyone. They dug into the old case Amber's mother had tried to expose. Within days, everything Mark had hidden began to surface. Threats, forged documents, and a pattern of silencing anyone who questioned him. Ethan watched the evidence unfold with a heavy heart. It wasn't about revenge. It was about doing what Emily would have done, about kindness winning where fear once ruled. When the final report came in, Ethan gathered Lily, Mia, and Amber in the living room. The mansion felt different now, less cold, more alive. Amber sat on the sofa, still unsure if she truly belonged in a house this grand. Ethan placed the file gently on the coffee table. Mark can't hurt anyone anymore, he said. Investigators confirmed everything your mother wrote. She was telling the truth. Amber's breath caught. She covered her mouth, tears welling. She wasn't lying. She never lied. Lily hugged her. She was trying to protect you, Amber, just like our mom did. Mia nodded. You're part of this story too. You always were. Amber shook her head slightly. I don't understand why your mom would risk so much for someone she barely knew. Ethan smiled faintly, his eyes warm with memories. Emily believed kindness was powerful. She believed that one good action could save a life. She helped your mother because she saw someone who needed hope. And now, it's our turn to continue that. Amber lowered her head, overwhelmed. I never had a family like this. Now you do, Ethan said softly. The final judgment on Mark arrived a week later. Investigators officially linked him to the threats and illegal activities Amber's mother had reported years ago. Everything came full circle. Truth exposed, fear ended. Ethan didn't celebrate. He simply stood by the window, looking out at the lake, grateful that justice had finally reached someone who'd spent years running from it. Amber watched him quietly. Do you think my mom would be proud? Ethan turned to her. I think she'd be grateful you survived, and proud that you told the truth, even when it terrified you. Lily and Mia brought out a small wooden box they had found while cleaning their mother's old study. Inside was a silver bracelet, simple, elegant, engraved with a tiny message Emily once lived by. Kindness leaves echoes. Mia handed it to Amber. We want you to have this. Mom helped your mother. Now we're helping you. Amber held the bracelet close to her chest, tears streaming. I'll protect it forever. That evening, the Ward family sat together for dinner. Ethan, Lily, Mia, and Amber. For the first time in years, the house felt like a home, filled with warmth instead of grief. Amber lifted her head. I'm going to start fresh, work hard, make my mom proud, and I want to honor Emily too. She saved us both. Ethan placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Then we'll do it together. Outside, the night over Seattle glowed softly, a peaceful reminder of how stories begin in pain but can end in healing. As Amber touched the silver bracelet, she whispered to herself, "And kindness always finds its way back." The final truth had been revealed. Justice was done.